Hi everyone, welcome to this IG Live on whether real estate developers can reduce their carbon footprint. The idea is to help understand what's the impact that construction has on climate change and vice versa. And we're going to have Sriram talk to it, and I'm just waiting for him to join. And just give me a minute. Just
Hey,
Hi Sriram.
how are you?
Good. I feel very accomplished when I can get people online very quickly onto an IG Live. So yeah.
I am just also trying to figure out how to get my hands free working. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. So we are live, huh? But I'm just letting you know.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Very clear.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah, I don't know why I'm not able to connect. But yeah, hi, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, just before we start, I just want to welcome everyone who's like logged in to this IG Live. And I mean, I think, like the topic said, the focus is on whether real estate developers can reduce their carbon footprint. And the idea is for us to understand what's the impact that climate change has on construction and vice versa, right? More importantly, what impact does construction have on climate change? And to speak to that, we have Sriram. Sriram Kuchimanchi is the founder and CEO of Smarter Dharma, and his work has focused extensively on making construction sustainable. And Sriram, I know you can speak a lot more to it, but like working across a range of people, right? So whether it's businesses, whether it's civil society, whether it's local governments, and the whole objective is to say construction's happening, but how do we make sure it's sustainable, the impact on the environment is as minimal as possible. Um, so I just want to set a little bit of context, Sriram, and then we can just jump straight in. And
Yeah,
it's pretty much around saying, I think all of us, right, when we speak to people in our homes, our friends and family, we're all talking about climate change. We're also all talking about this rampant construction that everybody can see happening all around them. And we know that there is some link, right? We know that all this construction is having some impact, whether it's in the amount of groundwater that's getting used, whether it's the emissions that get generated when buildings get constructed, or like even like the people we see working, right, their well-being. So I think the goal of the next 30 minutes is to help them understand, have you kind of explain to people on what does this mean, right, in terms of, construction as it's happening today, what should change, and what are some of the like changes that you're seeing happen that,
yeah,
will make a difference, and what's the role for all of us? And, you and I discussed earlier that there's a likelihood of we will have a part two where we can speak specifically on
yeah,
what buyers can do, right? But
right,
today is
right.
a broader thing on just helping people get a landscape of what's happening and what does it mean in terms of its impact on climate change and vice versa. So maybe we could start with that, right?
Yeah,
In the work that you've done, can you speak a little bit about the impact of building and construction on
yeah,
the environment and vice versa?
yeah. Hey, thank you for inviting, and this is good. Uh, we're just moving to new mediums, writing articles and publishing a newspaper to this. So I'm excited to be on this. I think this is the second one I'm doing. I did a couple of years ago for textile industry.
Uh,
So yeah, jumping straight into it, right? Construction industry is so there are of the top four greenhouse gas emitting industry, the ones which are causing impact. Construction and buildings stand second or third, depending on time. But energy, transportation, and agriculture being the other big ones. But construction industry, with the rampant growth India has, whichever side of the political spectrum you are in, you are part of this 2030 100 smart city roadmap. You are part of this housing for everybody roadmap. And that's not just India, right? Entire developing nations, Southeast Asia, China, there's tremendous development which is happening. So buildings are coming up. We are building. There's some crazy stats that every 29 days, an equivalent to a New York City is being built in Asia. That's a huge amount of infrastructure we're building, right? So if you're building like that, and that's the amount of greenhouse gases they're impacting, construction industry has a huge responsibility. Now, why Smarter Than my organization chose to work in this space, and why I would always encourage more to work in this space is, unlike other three big ticket items, construction industry has a huge potential to reduce carbon greenhouse gases, because a building, once built, is going to live 55 to 70 years. 58 is current age, average age of an Indian building, right? So you build it well first time, you're going to reap the positive benefits if you do really well. But if you do it negative, you're going to reap the negative impact, right? So it's a huge opportunity to actually be conscious. So that's the reason buildings. Now, the next question would be, what kind of impact? So impact itself is two kinds, right? Much like, as an analogy, I can, talking in greenhouse gases. I'm not going to get into why climate change, what is climate change. I'm going to assume the audience knows carbon footprint, greenhouse gases. At least let's assume that. Happy to answer questions. But so it's like a phone, right? Now, making of this phone, there's a one-time environmental impact. All the material which goes into it. That's called embodied carbon footprint. It's a one-time impact. Now, every time I plug it into power, energy, and draw current to charge the battery and reuse it over the next 5-6 years, that's called operational carbon. So same way, for a building, the impact of a building is measured in these two things. All the material which go into making the building, right from the bricks and cement and steel and the glass and the windows, all the way to your faucet, your tub, your shower, everything, your kitchen sink, all that is your embodied carbon. Every light you turn on, the power for the water to come from the sink, from wherever your tank is to your sink, and the waste which is going out, all that constitutes your operational carbon, which goes on for 55 to 70 years. So these are the two heads under which you measure the impact of a building. Now the focus on, so hence solving it, is on both these things. I'll stop there. If you want, I can talk more. But
yeah, no. So what does it mean, right? In the terms of like, what are like are developers thinking about this? And
yeah,
where are the improvements that can be made, right? One is, are they thinking about it? And then what are the areas that are like low hanging fruit in a sense?
yeah. So great. The good news is, definitely there's a huge interest right now. Developers, especially certain number of tier 1 cities, have taken it quite seriously. Like Smarter Dharma is based out of Bangalore. Bangalore stands out in its seriousness to sustainability. It has some of the most stringent policy, government bylaws and mandates. It's also got some of the most conscious citizenry, which means the builders are also very conscious. And it ranges from very conscious builders to, we still have standard fare builders, which is building a cardboard box building with absolutely zero interest. The trend, though, Smarter Dharma has been in this space since 2014. 9 years we've been in this space. We've had multiple inflection points, but right now, in the last 16 months, I would say we have seen the most interest. What happened pre-2018, pre-2019, right? Around end of 2018, has been a major inflection point according to us. It's either because of COP21, the whole SDGs, 2030 roadmap which came out. Prior to that, builders would ask me, what is climate change? How is it impacting my building? How is my building having an impact in the global warming scenario and all that? And then second question would be, all right, you've convinced me, what should I do? Into 2019, the first question most of the builders don't ask. The good news is, builders are either realizing that there's a government mandate, and the Indian government is coming with fairly good policies. By the way, I would actually go so far to say Indian government mandates are some of the best in the world. The challenge we have is the implementation. So government will say you should do rainwater harvesting of certain kind. The officer who's coming to check, and the builder, I don't know how many builders are on the call, but some of the builders find ways around it, not do the right way, and then get done with it. So we find that as an issue. Policy-wise, India is pretty good. I'll get to the policy in a second. So builders either do it because there is a policy requirement, or the customers are asking. Our second Insta Live, when we talk about what customers should ask, the good news is more and more customers are saying, okay, where will I get water from? How do you guarantee my energy bills won't go up? These are very, very fair questions. So customers are asking. So builders are realizing, okay, I need to live up to what customers are asking. Third, builders are realizing that, and it's an interesting thing, from 2019 to today, in the last 4 years, seeing it as a brand requirement, as a USP for them, saying, hey, I can talk green, and that's a unique USP for my brand, to now it's becoming a prerequisite. I need to do this because everybody's asking. We are on the verge of builders seeing FOMO in this. So builders, for whatever, we say these are the three reasons, but any of these reasons in their own permutation combination is urging the builder to say, I need to build sustainably. They have no idea what is sustainability. They have no idea what is green. Where do they start from? But they are definitely conscious. And I can give you multiple examples, not just my clients, non-Smarter Dharma clients also. There are enough guys who do good work.
And is this largely larger clients catering to like, the upper, like the premium segments, or you're also seeing like the more affordable housing kind of segments also look at this? Because a lot of the construction must be happening at the mid-income as well, right? Not necessarily at like the higher income in terms of sheer numbers.
Yeah. So you're right. The biggest bulk of the work which happens in India still is the onesies of independent houses, 2-floor houses, or 10 apartment building. That's a huge chunk of the Indian mass. Are they all very conscious? I wouldn't think so as yet. I mean, because see, India has give or take about 80,000 builders. 83,000 is the number of people float, but a lot of them have been shutting shop last 2 years. So let's assume 80,000. What we do not know anywhere easily is how many independent architects are there and these masons. You have a small 30-40 land, 1,200 square feet. You want to build a 3-bedroom house. You'll get a local architect. You'll get a local mason who'll come and literally draw on paper saying a box and say, this is what I'll build for you. A huge percent of Indian construction happens that way. Now, these guys adopting sustainability, we are still far off. And we don't even know, because there are individual architects who do some incredible work. But mass majority in India, the expectation is we don't do well. And there are enough indicators I can talk to you about. What indicators are telling us that most of these guys do not do. So that's one part. The other thing you asked is coming to, so apartments is where builders come in, right? Structured builder space, whether it is there are 3 levels of builders in the country. There are the Godrejas, Lodas of the world, Oberois, Brigades of the world, which is a small percentage. Then there is builders who do 4 or 5 projects a year, 3 projects a year. That's a good majority. And the last is guys who just have one piece of land, just get a few people together. Next 2 years, they'll build one project. Then again, get a piece of land. These two, level 2, level 3 are like 92% of the market. If these are the cases, what we're seeing is builders of the level 1 and level 2, for various reasons. Level 1, because government is mandating ESG reporting, they're doing anyway. Godrejas and Lodas of the world are doing something. I'm loosely saying the word they're doing it, because how well they're doing is another topic in itself, right? What happens? Level 1 are doing because of those reasons: ESG, government mandate, brand requirements, and all. Level 2 are coming in, they're realizing it's a USP. There's a FOMO potentially, and if I do well, I can sell it well. So they also ask us to help them sell. That's level 2. Level 3 guys, they're just saying, help me design. I anyway sell to my friends and family, so I don't need marketing support. I'll just do. So some level, all 3 are doing it. They're all at different levels of maturity, but there is progress in that. There's enough to feel optimistic. Is it good enough?
Yeah, but I think it's a step before, like what you said, right? From what it was 4 years ago. But so give us examples of what's happening at different levels, right? When you say developers are doing stuff to reduce the carbon footprint or emissions, what are some of the things they're doing?
Yeah. Again, nice maturity happening. All these years, we've been working on operational carbon. Earlier, I spoke about embodied and operational carbon, right? Not just India, most of the world actually. All these years, we've been focused a lot on operational carbon. Now, operational carbon focus comes something, the lowest hanging fruit where there's a lot of maturity is solar. Everybody sets up solar for I'll give an example of apartments, right? Everybody, or commercial buildings, everybody sets it up for the common area. Common area going on renewable energy is a default now. It's as good as buying LEDs. Now in India, you don't see anybody buying CFL unless it's some fancy light. But for the mass basic requirement, everybody has LEDs. Solar energy used for generating energy for my common area lighting, lobbies, entry area, reception, etc. It's a no-brainer. Solar water heating in some key cities, like Bangalore, has a mandate. Now Hyderabad is coming with money. Chennai has. So some cities are beginning to, you see a maturity on solar water heating. 1 floor, 2 floor, doesn't matter, but at some level people are using it. They're also doing some efficiency in that, but at the basic, as you asked, some of the basic things people are doing are those. Rainwater harvesting is something people are doing. That is mandate most of the country. So those are happening. And this is not just in India, across the world. These are certain things which happen. Um, in some cities like in Bangalore, but we're also seeing a little in Hyderabad. We're seeing in Surat also, where solid waste management. These are all the operational part, right? They're doing these things. People also, a little more mature architects and builders also are asking for passive cooling techniques, where can I look at reducing the heat load on the building so that I can reduce the air conditioner requirements. So a little more mature builders are also doing such things. Various technologies are there. On operational, we've seen maturity in all these things. In fact, we are beginning to see clients where when we talk about these, they already know it. The embodied in the last 2 years, there's been a very good progress. Right during COVID, there's been such a sudden maturity. Maturity, I would say progress in terms of change, but there's maturity definitely. People are, big names like Lodas, Godrejas are already saying, I need to have alternative material. They mandate their architects, they mandate their consultants to come and give them alternative materials. And the proof for that is, I think in the last 24 to 30 months, we ourselves have been exposed to at least 20 new alternative material companies. People making bricks from plastic waste, from agri waste, from construction demolition waste. A lot of such companies have come. The very fact that they're coming up tells you that the market is asking. There are other challenges we're having, but the number of companies which are coming up doing this is tremendous. And then there is the other end of technology where you have sensors coming in. You have IoT, Internet of Things based technology, based measuring your resource consumption, energy consumption, water consumption, giving you instant feedback. So these are some of the big ticket items embodied in terms of material. Awareness has come. The challenge builders see is either these materials are not mature enough, because if I have a brick which is made of plastic and it's only 3 year old, but the building is standing 50 years, they're like, what is the pedigree? And we have no answer for that. Second is cost, and that's a function of scale. So cost is a problem which we believe will be solved. It's the pedigree question. Many a times we are stymied. In fact, today evening I have a meeting with this company with whose product we take to market often, which is now taking carbon from smokestack, like factory carbon which comes out or vehicle emission, and converts that into tiles. It's an incredible idea, right? Rather than in Western worlds where they're working on this crazy idea of taking that carbon, putting it into the environment and spending a lot of money to do that, we are saying let's use it to make a product. And it's a great company. An ex-architect who's done that, right? So he understands the need of it. So all these things are there. So various levels of maturity on all this.
Yeah, no, I think it's very encouraging to learn this, right? So are they also tracking emissions? I mean, it's so people are putting this, right? But how do you know, 2 years ago you built the same thing and now you're building it differently? How does the general public know, right? Like you can put in all of these things and still, if you consume more of it, you're still not doing,
Yeah.
much,
No,
right?
very true, very true. So, it's a very good question, right? The challenge we are having is there is not enough deployment of measuring post-occupancy, even though that's the easiest thing to solve. So India now has, of my network, I probably know 3 or 4 good companies with mature products which can give, and then there are BMS solutions. So I'll put BMS aside. There are solutions which are saying, for example, how much borewell water are you getting? How much fresh water are you getting? Each house, and being able to give you instant feedback and tell you what's the average in your community. So you are aware that I am using per day per person 150 liters, while the average in my community is only 115 liters. I am using more than the average. This kind of technology is there. The adoption is not as wide as we would like it to be, but if that is there, then we would be able to know how well these things are performing. And it's the moment we do that, right? It gives us both advantages. One, we will know how well the buildings are performing, and second, which is of a huge interest for us, Smarter Dharma in our work, is it can help us do that behavior change, right? If you are told constantly that you are consuming 150 liters per person per day, your house of 4 people, 600 liters you're consuming per day, that is 150 liters per person per day. Now, the National Building Code mandates 135 liters. UNEP comes to India and says, please use only 125 liters per person per day. Otherwise, you'll be running out of water. We have clients today where customers are happy at 100 liters. You can actually do that efficiency. So if you show these numbers and say to a customer on a mobile app, you're telling them how much more you're using. But if you add in efficiency and become conscious, let's say you're told that because of your efficiency, you're providing fresh water to so many families in the city per year.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe
You're motivated to kind of do it, right? Yeah, exactly.
So that sensor based knowing how a building is performing, it's a huge opportunity. People should do it. And there are enough companies. VGOT is a great company. We know, we work with. Their product is there in the market. I'm giving one plug so far. But yeah.
Yeah, no. So I think it's really good, right? Like how you explain what the impact of climate change is on construction, right? Sorry, construction is on climate change, but there's also an impact of the changing environment on how construction is happening, right? In terms of weather, like increased heat, increased rainfall, on the people working, on the construction workers, but also in how projects come up and what gets built, right? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, it's a very important question. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I'll end up talking more. You got to do time for me.
Yeah, I will. No, but now that I know that you're going to do the buyer thing in the next IG live, so I can kind of ask you to kind of speak a little bit more.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, so a great example I'll give you. Typically, Bangalore city, the expected rainfall, the bulk of it happens across about 60 days. And there's an open calculator given by one of the father of water management in Bangalore city. He's created a public tool, and all of us, everybody working in the space uses it. What happened though, and we planned this over 60 days of rainfall falling, which tells us what should be the size of rainwater harvesting tanks, how do we manage the water, how much do we reuse. You plan the whole design based on this 9 and 16 mm falling over 60 days period. For the last 6 years, we have seen that 60 days shrink. Now, as it shrinks, it's not like a quantum has reduced. The quantum is the same, but the amount of time available for handling has reduced. So if you have a tank size of EA size, right, something of this kind, but assuming water is going to fall so much and I'll reuse it, I'll fill it, I'll reuse it, I'll fill it, I'll reuse it. But if the number of days reduces, the tank fills up before you have reused the water. And so it overflows. So I'm not saying flooding in the city is, or anywhere in the country, is just because of this, but this is a key. There are other reasons, not hard-topped roads, not well-planned slopes, a lot of other reasons are there. But one key thing we have seen where buildings get flooded is simply because we are not, so we have to constantly recalibrate our rainwater design. You have to realize that I need to change. Similarly, in terms of, when we do thermal heat absorption of a building, temperature is going up, the number of days of hot days in the year is going up. I have a data for non-India, but it makes sense, is over the past 10 years, in the last decade, in the country of Spain, summer has increased by 21 days. 3 full weeks of an increase, which has caused a spiraling effect on the olive production, which is causing a spiral effect on olive oil production, and so costs will go up. So, I mean, the spiral effect can be a big discussion in itself. But these are some examples of how the construction technology, construction style. So because of more water logging, how do you handle it? All that is changing. And some great ideas are there to solve. We have just now.
And also, like you're saying, right, it's dynamic. So today it might be 90, like shrunk, the 60 days are shrunk. 3 years, 4 years down the road, it might look completely different, right?
It might again go up or come down. We don't know.
Right.
And that's why this 1.5 degrees is very important. When people are saying we should reach that 1.5 degrees centigrade, we should be conscious about it.
Right.
The biggest change that will happen when we cross that 1.5 degrees is more unpredictable weather patterns. You wouldn't know when it will rain. You wouldn't be able to predict when it will become suddenly hot, and you wouldn't know how to handle it now.
there's also an impact on the construction workers themselves, right? Are businesses thinking about that? As in, I mean, I know.
So this is a great question, and what is nice is some of the conscious builders we have worked with. So most of the time we worked with fairly progressive builders. These guys provide good facilities for construction labor, right? I've seen some really good sites. Our own customers, we have gone delivered smokeless chulas for them because a lot of them burn wood and do. We deployed basic sewage treatment so that their restrooms are all proper. Some builders do that. Of course, there are umpteen examples of really, really bad. We've taken photographs of really bad labor management, right? I would definitely say that there are some good conscious developers in the country. It's a small number. And we created actually templates of what you should do. We have examples of photographed examples of, we have done yoga sessions for laborers. We've set up TVs and made the builder come sit with them, watch a movie together. And so we found various things. There are, for example, now one good thing which has come out of the, I forget the country's thing, which is having bank account for everybody. One of the Prime Minister's initiative, right? So with that, all the laborers now get digital transfer of their money. These are some very nice things because with that savings has improved. So, but then there's a huge gap here. That is a huge problem. I'm glad you asked this question. If there are developers here, I would say please be conscious about it because I would actually want to tell one thing. I would say you should get handprints or some photographs of something and give a basic book to your buyers. Ultimately, those are the hands which build your house, right? So it'd be good to create that connect. I mean, you buy organic rice, and sorry, I was just going to say, you buy organic rice, you would love to get that QR code on your package and get a photo of, get the story of your farmer. We are doing that in food. We should do the same thing in construction industry.
Right. Yeah, and I think the challenge is, like you're saying, there are progressive builders. You're seeing some of this happen. How do you push it down, right, and push it wide? And I think that's probably a conversation we can have later. But what's the role that non-profits can play, right? Or social enterprises, or organizations like yours, right? What's the role of people who work closely both on the side of communities, construction workers, as well as can influence business and policy? What's the role for them to make sure that this is not limited to 5 players?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to. This is a very maligned industry, right? We all look at it is income tax department and construction. These are the two bad actors we talk. But I'll tell you something. Most of the builders are not just sitting here figuring out what can I do to cut corners. They want to do a decent product. Because they realize they live and die by the sword, right? If they do a good building, they're going to get a chance to do another building. They do bad job, shoddy job, they're out of business. They all know that. So even when it comes to sustainability, they don't want to take shortcuts. They want to figure out what is possible. They need handholding. They're saying, look, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. And at different levels, going from last and first out, I'll go to the social impact, the laborers. A lot of NGOs and social enterprises can come and play a role. We were doing that earlier because we didn't find anybody, but we found now NGOs can come do sessions on yoga. The laborers they love to do that. We just have to bring them in, and the builders are happy to spend that money. There are NGOs who are now building collapsible bamboo houses for construction laborers. Builders like that idea because I can repurpose it again in the next project. Social enterprises can come in and help in carbon footprint calculation and all. People like us do. There are a few, and the more the merrier. Everybody should come in and help them. Builders finally need one other thing. Okay, they need an ability to be able to sell their sustainability to their customers, which means customer awareness, and that nudge for the customer is needed, and that can also come from companies. It doesn't have to be an NGO. Any social enterprise coming in. I used to be an NGO or a non-profit. I'm trying to tell you that sustainability is mainstream. It doesn't have to be an NGO. It doesn't have a non-profit. Folks can come in. There is enough business use case to play a role. I can give umpteen examples, but yeah, all of them can play a role.
Yeah. No. So thank you so much, Sriram. We are at 30 minutes. And we'll wrap this up, but I think there's a lot more that I would have liked to ask you, which we will probably do in the part 2. But I think it is really interesting for us all to kind of understand saying what's the role, right? What does construction look like today? Where does it come? And like what are like at least some of the big guys doing, right? And what's probably that's a pathway for like the others to kind of follow. But also, what's the like how do you kind of make sure that it kind of becomes more widespread, right?
Yeah.
And like a role for everyone to kind of play. I think there has been some interest in the chat on people asking what some of those tools are, which I think we can get back to them. Like I think some of this was water measurement and all that. Yeah, go on.
But can I say one thing? Yeah, I was going to say that a key role is the buyer. I really want to stress on this. I think it's like anything else, right? Whether you're making a shirt or a phone or a house, the producer is going to do what the consumer is asking.
Correct.
I think a key role is what we do. If we are able to go and say, and so what Smarter Dharma does is, we are telling the builder, look, you're going to spend a little more money to make it more sustainable. Sell that idea to your customers. Let the customer be told that, look, you're spending 50 rupees per square feet more because you're going to live in a house where your water security you're guaranteed, or you're not going to have an energy bill which is higher compared to that knowledge. We can provide a builders who are willing to share. But at the same time, buyers should ask. If buyers ask, builders will do.
Builders will build.
I am a firm believer on that. It's not policy. It's really the buyers coming in and playing a bigger role.
Yeah. So you're saying it's the demand, right? They will respond to the customer, right? And so therefore, like you're saying, there's a role to be played in building some of this awareness with customers. Because a lot of customers might not be asking for this, right?
Absolutely.
But also one is when
that's
they buy.
A great thing. Marketing companies can do. Yeah, sorry.
Correct. Yeah. No, I'm saying one is when they buy, they ask these questions, but also when they like operate, right? I mean, running, like you said, right? If I know how much water I'm consuming and I'm like saying like, okay, I'm consuming 150, whereas others are consuming 110, it kind of forces me to kind of do better as well. Yeah. So this whole, I think citizen engagement is an important part of like driving some of this.
EVs are selling, right? EV two-wheelers.
Right.
There are YouTube videos I found recently. Well, I'm trying to get a two-wheeler for myself, and I'm seeing one guy has this great 15-minute video. He's talking about comparing the cost-benefit analysis of a typical petrol two-wheeler and a EV two-wheeler, scooter, and another EV two-wheeler, and he's given a 2-year roadmap of how much money you save. I was like, we should make these videos to buyers and say, you're buying a 3 BHK apartment or 2 BHK apartment. Here's the cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah. No, and I think the EV is a good example, right? It is. I mean,
customers are just they're lapping it up. Yeah, look at the way Ethers and all these are selling. People are they can see the value. Builders, and they are more expensive. They are expensive by 15,000-20,000 rupees more than a non-EV motorcycle or a scooter. But people are buying because they know the cost-benefit analysis. It's the same thing. Builder, when you're buying a 85 lakh apartment and you spend, let's say 95 lakhs, 10 lakhs more or something, you will see benefit. We have enough data to prove that you'll see benefit. You just have to, somebody has to make that YouTube video.
Yes. I was just going to say, maybe we can ask you to make it. Right? So thank you, Sriram. I mean, we've like crossed the time, but it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And I think this has been really interesting as well. And we will do part 2, where what you're saying is important, right? What are the questions we ask? How do you build, customer buyer demand so that, change happens at like the construction, side of things.
Yes.
So, yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.